right, so we're talking about one of my most anticipated shows of 2020, and that is Ozark Season 3, a season filled with family drama, drug wars, you got new alliances, you got tough decisions being made by some of our favorite characters. We're talking about that and much more. Season 3 takes place 6 months after Season 2, where the casino is finally up and running, but Marty and Wendy are fighting for control of their family's destiny. Marty preaches keeping the status quo. Aided by an alliance with Helen and leader Omar Navarro, Wendy plots for expansion, but when Wendy's brother Ben comes into town, everyone's lives are thrown into chaos. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Movie Files. Elliot here to talk about one of my favorite shows on Netflix, and just one of my favorite shows in general, and that is Ozark. We're talking about Season 3 in this review here. I'm breaking it all down and very excited to do so. Before we dive into it, as you all can see on the screen now, make sure you're following me on all my social media accounts. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss any of my new videos. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, really helps out the channel, but I also really appreciate it. And last but not least, if and when you've all have seen this latest season of Ozark, you know you got to drop your comments below. Let me know your pros, your cons, what you hope to see in the future, and let's just break it all down in the comment section. If you are talking spoilers, make sure for those that haven't seen it that you leave like a big old headliner or a title saying spoiler warning, and then 10 spots down, let me know your comments, and we'll go ahead and have some conversations down there. So as the reason I mention that with spoilers is because the way I do, if you haven't seen one of my Netflix reviews in the past, what I like to do is spend the first 5 or 7 minutes talking about just my initial thoughts, no spoilers whatsoever, being pretty vague about the story. But then the second half of the video, I dive deeper into my pros, my cons, theories about, potentially seasons ahead and things of that nature. So first half, no spoilers, second half, spoilers. So let's just jump right into it, guys. So first, initial thoughts. This might be my favorite season of the show this far. I am a big fan of the show. I haven't reviewed the show on this channel before. I've done a written review on my Instagram. If you haven't already, definitely follow me there. But I love the characters that we get to meet in season 1 and how everything kind of plays out in the first season. And then obviously season 2 takes it to a bigger level. We meet more characters. We get these complex situations that our characters are making really, really crazy decisions, decisions that can affect their lives forever, and some really intense decisions that can affect other people's lives. So this season takes all of those elements from season 1 and just gives it to us in such a grand scale. This season not only is bigger in scale and also complex in the storylines, but what I was very impressed with this season was how, even though we were much bigger, there's more characters, there's a lot of moving pieces, they were still able to focus on those character moments, right? So we learn more about Marty and his past. We learn more about Wendy and her family. We learn more about Ruth and her vulnerabilities and her opening up a little bit more, right? And then we meet more of these new characters that are brought into the table. And I thought that this season did such a great job of mapping things out and exploring certain aspects of the storyline and really doing a good job of having a great payoff, in my personal opinion. This season really has a theme in regards to family, right? And shows like this, and obviously it gets the comparisons to Breaking Bad, which is my favorite show of all time. And there's obviously comparisons there as far as the storyline and everything about, like, I'm doing this for my family. You get those comparisons, but I think 3 seasons into this show is starting to, has its own identity at this point, right? And that the fact that the family is all involved and there's a lot more moving pieces in this show than you could say with Breaking Bad at some points. But this show really, really hit home the aspect of how important family is to these characters, from whether it be Helen's character, obviously the Bird family, and meeting Wendy's brother Ben, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But all these characters, they're showing you their vulnerable side and showing you where you can hit them the hardest, right? And that involves the family. And I thought that they did a good job of expressing that. This show is nothing without the performances. Obviously I have become such a big fan of Jason Bateman in the last 4 or 5 years regarding in the TV world, whether it be a show like Ozark, whether it be seeing him in a show like The Outsider, and him directing episodes has just been fantastic. But in particularly Marty Bird, we get an incredible arc from him, in my opinion, seeing him kind of fight his fears, right? Facing his fears a little bit more. We get a little bit of backstory from him from when he was a kid, and seeing how he kind of processes things. I thought that his character really had a really interesting arc. But his partner in crime, Wendy, had a lot to do this season, and I really enjoyed her performance. Seeing her and Helen kind of build a relationship, and seeing them kind of Wendy coming up with the idea to expand Omar's kind of businesses and making it more legit was very fascinating. But Wendy goes through a lot this season, guys, like on a personal level, on a family level, and she broke down a few times, and I thought the performance was great by Wendy. the kids, guys, are finally doing some good, right? The first two seasons, I didn't hate the kids, but there were just decisions that were being made that just really didn't sit well with me, and particularly with Charlotte's character, especially season 2. But finally, the kids are a little bit older. They're making smart decisions. They still make some head-scratching decisions within the season, like Jonah towards the end of the season makes some interesting choices there. But Charlotte finally is just like, you know what? This is my family. I want to accept them for who they are. And I like that the kids are finally coming around to what's going on and making the best out of this really, really tough, difficult situation. This show, to me, the MVP of the show is always Ruth Lane Moore. I thought that the performance, and it's been this way since season 1, and we've seen the awards she's been given, Julia Gardner, but this season, we get a lot more layers to Ruth, right? We obviously get the, no shit type of, no nonsense type of attitude from her. We see her, standing her ground, but you also see a vulnerable side to Ruth, and you see a new relationship being blossomed from a particular character with Ruth, and I thought that was really fascinating. And again, Ruth, she knocks out of the park again for me, and she makes some really interesting decisions in this season, especially towards the end, which we won't talk about until we get to the spoilers, but very interested to see what comes of Ruth and the decisions she makes at the end of the season. So I thought the characters are really well written. We get some new characters. I thought all the new characters were fascinating and really interesting and very integral to the story. Got some new favorite characters that really put a smile on my face from this season. Like in particularly, I like Maya Miller. She reminded me of Marge from Fargo. Really, really fascinating FBI agent, kind of replacing FBI agent Petty, who I wasn't a fan of at all. But I like this new detective or new FBI agent on board. One of my favorites for sure is the therapist that they have, Sue. I thought she was hilarious and brought an interesting layer, some levity to the show, if you want to call it that. And seeing everything that played out with her character was really unique. And then you get Wendy's character, as I had mentioned in the synopsis. You get Ben, who is, at first you think he's going to play a certain role, but then you end up finding out he's going to play a big role in this season. And I thought the actor that played Ben was fantastic. There are some criticisms I have about the Ben character, but as a character as a whole, as far as what he did in the season, I thought was really well done. As far as negatives go, Omar Navarro is the big bad, right? We were leading up to this guy, and I thought the actor was great. Again, the acting on the show was fantastic, but I felt like the intensity and the menacing aspect of this villain at time was a little inconsistent for me personally. Like, we would spend like the first half of the season on Navarro and this drug war that he's involved with, and you really get the idea that this guy is no one to mess with. But then, of course, a show like this that has a lot of main characters already within establishing the show, but then they introduce these new characters. Sometimes you kind of forget about Navarro and the drug crime and the drug lord and everything like that, because it was just so many moving pieces at times. But I would have liked to have gotten a little bit more from that character, and we will probably get more of him, and particularly maybe future seasons, but I thought that I just wanted a little bit more from that character. Without getting into specifics, which I will get into in the spoiler half, there are certain relationships that I thought was a little underdeveloped. I won't say who, but it involves Darlene Snell, and there's some other characters that I just thought like, wow, that was an interesting choice. I don't know how I feel about that, and we'll talk about that in the spoiler half, guys. But all in all, just some minor, criticisms that I'll talk more about in the spoiler half, but all in all, I thought this was a fantastic season, fascinating character developments, really shocking moments in this season, really well done in regards to the acting, the directing, the score. Fantastic, guys. If you're a fan of season 1 and 2, you will love season 3, in my opinion, and I can't recommend you all stream this when you get the chance. We all know we're at home at this point. Watch this show, and when you do, let me know your thoughts in the comments. So now, for all those that have binged the show in one sitting like I did, which was the first time I ever did this, when I watched season 1, I kind of let it kind of soaked in, and I didn't watch it all in one time. Same with season 2, but this is my first time ever watching a show in one sitting, and boy, was that fascinating. We're going to dive into the spoilers right now. So that ending, right? We see how everything plays out. We knew that once, Marty and Wendy and Helen got on that airplane, that not everyone was going to come back home, and that person was Helen. The whole season they're doing this kind of pull and tug between Wendy and Helen, developing that relationship, and obviously that relationship kind of was deteriorated once Ben told Aaron about her mother and how she was involved in a drug cartel, and we thought that Helen had the upper hand with Omar, right? But Last minute changes. Omar decides to take her out. He kills Helen, blows her brains out, and that is going to be a very fascinating aspect leading into season 4 because number one, she's everyone's lawyer. She knows all the inner workings. I thought that the hitman was going to give her a hint. Remember early in the season, he said, "Hey, if you ever get that call, will you let me know?" He said, "Yeah." Obviously, he didn't. So it'll be very fascinating to see who fills that slot for Helen, right? That new lawyer, that person that knows everything that goes on. I'm very fascinated to see who that character is. We're going to probably get a really, because I really enjoyed Helen, guys. Season 2 with the introduction of her, and then obviously in this season getting more layers of her, learning about her divorce and her kids and all that stuff. I thought it was really fascinating. So it'll be really cool to see who replaces Helen this season. So, we get that moment, but I had mentioned in my non-spoiler portion about Ben's character, right? I thought the acting was fantastic. I always applaud shows that address characters that deal with things like bipolar or mental health, and I thought that was a really interesting way to bring that particular, real life groundedness to the show in regards to just representing all types of people and talking about these type of illnesses that affect people around the world. So I thought that was really commend the show, applaud the show for bringing that element to this type of show, and I love the performance by Ben. But as far as Ben goes, my only big criticism with the character Ben is I was very fascinated with him in the first half of the season. Him, just kind of being kind of wacky, or not wacky, but being kind of, off-killed and, knowing that he has good relationships with Jonah, with obviously the Bird family, and then him being introduced to Ruth and seeing them kind of do their little flirting, what have you, and then eventually them becoming lovers, and them falling in love. And I was fine with all that. But then once we focused on Ben, literally the second half of the season is so Ben-centric, right? Everything revolves around what he's doing. He literally throws a monkey wrench. He's a wild card in this story. And probably one of my least favorite episodes. Again, I thought the acting was great. The storytelling was really interesting. But I thought that episode 9 was just really focused on Ben. We don't even see how he dies. Just as weird as his introduction was, seeing him as a teacher and all that kind of play out, which again plays into his character and him being bipolar. But then the ending, not seeing him die, not that you have to see all these characters die off screen or on screen, but I would have liked to have seen what exactly played out. Obviously, you know what happens to him, but Ben's character, like I said, I'm kind of just like torn because he took up so much space in that second half that took away from the drug crimes or the drug lords and the war that was going on and all the other subplots. But again, I thought the acting was great. I just wish that they would have told that story more connected to the overall theme. But outside of that, I thought that the what season 4 is leading up to as far as the drug lord and the drug war that we're going to have. Are Marty and Wendy going to continue to be loyal to Omar? Will they potentially switch sides in a season 4? That'll be really fascinating. But as of right now, they seem to be his right-hand man. It's just, they're replacing Helen essentially because he hugged them at the end as he told Wendy on the phone, "What do you expect me to hug you?" And he did exactly that at the end of the season. So it'll be really fascinating to see that relationship blossom into season 4. And if the loyalty will still be there in a season 4, I'm really fascinated by that. Again, I had mentioned earlier, we learned more about Marty's character as a kid, seeing his dad die, seeing that video game. I thought that was a really, really great episode, which is episode 4 when Marty gets kidnapped by Omar and he continuously asks him what he wants. And that's where, for me, Marty just really kind of hit home for me in regards to just standing up for himself. He gave Omar everything back in regards to just being like, "Dude, I've done this, done that." I really like that he stood up for him, which again goes back to my criticism about Omar in regards to like, you're supposed to be this badass, cartel character. You just letting people talk to you any type of way. And then sometimes he would come back at them. But again, I thought the inconsistency of that Omar character was kind of hit or miss for me at times. But again, I like what Marty did, stood up for himself and really wanted to get back to his family. But again, I thought Wendy had some really complex moments. Again, that decision she makes at the end of the season to kill her brother is going to sit with her forever. Obviously, we saw her make that decision to kill Cade, who I wasn't a fan of. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't the acting. That character, Ruth's dad, and Detective Petty are probably two of my least favorite characters of the show. I just don't like the way they were written. I just didn't like those characters, so I was glad that they were done in season 2. But either way, the decision that Wendy makes at the end of season 2 to kill him, and then obviously the decision she makes to kill her brother, really going to sit with her for a very long time. It's really interesting to see what happens with Wendy in season 4 as far as how that's going to sit on her, right? That weight of those decisions she's made in the last 2 seasons will be really fascinating. again, bringing up Ruth, my favorite character. She's now joining Darlene in her drug, situation with the Poppies, which, by the way, I had mentioned in my non-spoiler review. That relationship with Darlene and Wyatt did not work for me personally. Nothing against age and people being older, dating younger people. That love is ageless, but it just didn't. I thought they were going to be more. I would have preferred. I thought it would have been a stronger story if it was more of a mother-son type of relationship versus mother and lover or lover relationship. Because I thought he was going to be like the new Ash, right? Her hitman that was killed by Jacob in season 1. But I don't know how I feel about that. Let me know in the comments how you guys feel about Darlene and Wyatt, and do you think that's going to continue to be something in season 4, or will Wyatt realize that she is batshit crazy, which she is, even though she had admitted to him that she killed Jacob, which I thought that was a storyline that was going to maybe play a bigger role in this season, which they brought it up, obviously, but I thought they were going to be that the birds were going to find out about it and all that stuff, but they really didn't play on that, which who knows, in season 4 that might be brought up to them. But I don't know how I felt about the Darlene and Wyatt relationship. Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments. But all in all, like I said, the big moment was the ending about, Helen taking that shot to the head and who's going to replace Helen, which I think right now Marty and Wendy are going to take that position for now. But who's going to be the new lawyer? Obviously, the drug cartel probably has a laundry list of lawyers that can just plug and play into the positions. But it'll be really interesting to see who that character is. Maya Miller, it'll be interesting to see, obviously Marty was trying to turn her, and she's just like the female version of Marty, essentially, but she works on the good side, if you want to call it that, with FBI. But she's going to maybe be off the case, because there were moments that she was going to be off the case, but then they brought her back in. So it'll be really interesting to see that complex relationship and that dynamic, and if Marty will eventually be able to turn her next season. I thought that was a really good, interesting relationship. The Casey mob and Darlene are now on one team. And like I said, Ruth is now working with the Snells. That's going to be really, really interesting. I can't wait to see the reaction from Marty when he finds out that Ruth is now helping the Snells in their operation with Wyatt. That's going to be a very interesting war within itself, right? Seeing how Marty and Wendy and the family are going to handle that news, and that's going to be really fascinating. That is a really interesting storyline that I can't wait to see play out in season 4. So, I'm going to probably do a separate video potentially in the next couple of days. It's going to really focus on my thoughts for season 4 and what I hope to see, and obviously talking more about that ending from season 3. But overall thoughts, like I said in my non-spoiler review, this is probably my favorite season of the show thus far. I thought it was so complex, a lot of moving pieces. It was dark at moments. It was funny at moments, like the character Sue, who I felt so bad that they ended up killing her in that manner, right? That hitman just taking her out the way he did. Well, obviously we didn't see him kill her, but I assume he shot her or did whatever he did to her. But I thought that character was really great, and would have liked to see them move into a season 4. But I thought the new characters, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the KC mob. Obviously making this alliance with the Snells, but what Darlene did to Frank Jr., who is a complete wild card. I'm not too familiar with the actor. I know he's very popular on Power on Stars, but it'll be really interesting to see that relationship kind of play out next season, because he's a wild card himself. So, very, very excited for the future of the show. I wonder if Helen's kid, Aaron, and that whole, if their family's going to play any more parts into next season. And again, seeing that relationship between Omar, Wendy, and Marty blossom will be really fascinating for season 4. So that's the spoiler half of this review, guys. As far as the big moments that I really enjoyed, some of the moments I didn't enjoy. But like I said, I make these videos to know what you all thought about this show. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video, give it a thumbs up. Really helps out the channel, but also really appreciate it. Share this video to all those that that love this show like we do. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. I just crossed 2,500 subscribers. Thank you for the continued support, and we're on the road to 3,000, and I can't wait to get there. But I thank you guys for helping me get over the 2,500 mark. Follow me on all my social media accounts. Got some reviews on my channel currently for other TV shows. Check that out. Hopefully we'll be doing another watch along here in the next few days or next coming weeks. So let me know what you guys would like to watch in the future. And again, guys, thank you for the continued support. Again, I'm going to probably do another video for Ozark, touching on the ending and maybe talking about season 4. So that's something I'm going to probably get right in here and shoot the next couple of days. But thank you all for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.